Hey, folks, we're back, and you might have thought cloaking was something that Romulans invented in a few centuries from now, but it turns out we have cloaking today, and it's being used to launch cyber attacks that are much more clever and much more evasive. And now they can use it as a service. Jack Poller, explain to us what's going on here with cloaking as a service.
Well, the idea is basically you show different content to different audiences. So you are a malicious actor and you've set up a web page that is maybe a man-in-the-middle attack or has some phishing or some other way to get the information you want. And you detect when your target is looking at your web page versus, say, the company that you're trying to phish. So you're trying to get access to, let's say, you, Mike Vizard, at TechStrong. When you look at the web page, you see something that is going to steal your identity. But when anybody else from TechStrong sees it, or the TechStrong security team looks at that web page, they're going to see a completely benign and different view. So they've cloaked and masked what they're doing. Now, Alan introduced the segment as this is new, but the reality is this is something we've been doing for a very long time. What's new here is the amount of sophistication and effort the malicious actors are going through, and that it's being provided as a service similar to ransomware as a service for other bad guys to use. So it takes a lot of effort to set this up and set it up right so that you actually do mask what you're doing, so that it's very hard for the security tools to detect this cloaking. And so people are offering it as a service. And so it's now you have multiple parties involved in this. And it's, the software tools to do this is essentially a legitimate business to do illegitimate activity in and of itself, or an illegitimate.
So isn't our last discussion around Gemini, isn't that what was happening? Isn't that cloaking?
It is it's another form of cloaking, which is why it's, and like I said, we've been doing these for a long time. Early in the days of the web commerce, when PayPal got started, PayPal had a very specific set of prohibited activities, firearms, the porn industry. So those industries that wanted to use PayPal would present a specific type of web page that was completely benign and showed not firearms or porn when anybody from PayPal's IP address range would come to it. But anybody else using the site would see all the good stuff, right? And it's been around for a long time. As you said, the AI stuff as a form of cloaking, we're hiding the instructions we're giving to the LLMs as well.
Hiding them, white on white hiding is really not very sophisticated compared to, some of the cloaking we're talking about here. The deal is with it, though, you're dealing with criminal enterprises, right? That are now multi-level criminal enterprises, right? These people, they've perfected it. They got it down as a service, and they sell it the same way you can subscribe to any other thing in the legitimate world, right? You mentioned the ransomware as a service. Rootkit is a service. APTs, advanced persistent threats as a service. Make no mistake about the sophistication and maturity of the whole cybercrime.
Well, if you're the engineer or the hacker that's gone through all the effort to do this, right? And then do you want to go and target a group of users, or would you rather, sell it to 100 other bad guys and, maybe you can make a lot more money than targeting individual people if you could sell it to, right?
Well, but there's hierarchies here, right? It's like, all right, so first we're going to offer this to the guys who want just complete ID, right? Then we're going to give it to the people who are just looking for passwords. Then we're going to give it to the people who are just collecting social security numbers. Then we're going to give it to the people who are mapping out IDs. Then we're going to give whatever we were able to extract, but it's in a hash ball. We're going to give it to the people who are collecting those waiting for quantum to come, right? For Q-Day to come. And, there is a very defined hierarchy food chain within the cyber criminal world of who you sell what when to. It's great. It's
Well, now, Alan, when you put it that way, we have to go back to Jack's previous discussion in the last segment. And we got to train AI models to kind of ignore these obfuscated input, right?
But what about if there was a legitimate reason to put some obfuscated input in there?
Well, yeah, we do that on websites all the time.
Yeah,
for
no,
search
I mean, so
optimization.
how do you distinguish between, a good use and a bad use?
Well, think about it. I think we're entering an era where this can kind of be taken to the next level, which is, say we have web pages. They're actually generated when we visit them, as opposed to an existing web page that has been masqueraded and cloaked to look like something else. But you can kind of hide in plain sight, to use that term again, where you wouldn't know that it's being generated at this moment, but that quickly we can create HTML code, load the page, and now we can do really nefarious things like I can hide what looked like me 5 minutes ago. It looks like something totally different in terms of the website. So when you go back to it and say, "Here, I had this problem," I'm like, I don't see where it was. Or the bad guys are gone, or they rolled up the carpet in that sweatshop where they were dialing for dollars. That kind of thing. So I think it's going to be real even tougher to nail things down, to not just say, where's the IP address, but where's the code that came from? Because it isn't living anywhere. It's actually generated on the fly.
Well, there's another part to this that's actually has broader implications too, is part of what the particular, in this case, this particular cloaking service is doing is masquerading, not only showing you a different web page, not only generating that on the fly, but they're changing the behavior of the responses that the computer sees. So all of the metadata looks different as well. So they can mimic that it's coming from an Apple browser or this browser or that browser. And a lot of that metadata is being used right now in what's called fingerprinting to help organizations do MFA and decide if, they're trying to, an organization that's doing some security is trying to decide if when you, Mitch, log in, are you Mitch coming in from Florida where you normally live? Or, hey, wait a second, we see this connection, looks like it's coming from Romania. Maybe that's not Mitch. Maybe we have to do something more to validate him, right? Well, now if we have this capability where we can make all of that metadata, we can falsify all of that. That makes the fingerprinting much harder, and it has implications farther down throughout cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. Mitch, is it my mistake here? But as I look at what these services are doing, they must be hiring first-class DevOps engineers to manage all this stuff. So, are they? Maybe we need white papers from these people about their best practices, but
they're mercenaries. If you want to pay them, they'll write them.
Yeah, I bet they will. Yeah, they'll see the rootkit and the paper behind it. Yeah, no doubt. If they could make money at it, they would. I think it's what we're dealing with is the case of hit and run, right? It's the moving target that you can't pin down of what's happening, who is the person, or where's the code that doing this, and we're entering a time where it's one thing for us to generate code on the fly. We live in a world like, AWS just announced in their agent core. I'm not saying you're doing nefarious things with it, but they provide a sandbox for agents to write code on the fly while they're doing work. And they'll write their own prompts and run it in a sandbox as part of the agent process. So we can write prompts on the fly. I mean, you talk about code that changes and morphs and chameleon. This is going to be really hard, I think, to pin down what's going on, where it happened, and why.
Agreed.
I guess more money is going to have to be spent on, red teaming and doing more testing around these models, much more aggressive testing than we probably have done in the past. Because the nefarious part about this is that when you have it as a service, it's really easy for people to, it really does lower the barrier to become an attacker. And that, I think that is the story, right? It makes it available to so many more people.
I mean, all tech tools have had this, not backdoor, but have had this, this is the seedy dark side, the underbelly of the internet, right? Is where it's at. I think an answer could be, though, it's not a question of red teaming or testing. We will probably need, Chris Blass may be onto something with the civic AI and all of that stuff. We're going to need to have some sort of laws of robotics around AI and how it's used and what you can and can't do, and guardrails around ethical use. And it's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be really hard. But I think that's where we're ultimately going to have to get to, and the zeroth law and all that stuff.
I'm looking forward to Discovery Channel having the battle agents instead of battle bots. Well, they'll be battling agents.
That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. But hey, let's pull the.
I can't wait for the argument about how you're violating one of my amendment rights because you're regulating AI, because it'll be just the same conversation.
Is there a right to AI as part of your personal privacy rules or whatever? Life, liberty, and the right to AI. But anyway, let's pull the plug on this segment. We're going to come back and talk about, let's stay in the law of robotics. We're going to talk about Asimov. It sounds foundational. You're watching Tech Strong Gang.